The state inspector's boots left marks in dust that should have been mud. Marcus Holt stood next to his irrigation control panel, watching the man kneel down and press his palm into soil that cracked like old leather. August in central Nebraska wasn't supposed to look like this. The corn should have been waist-high and green. Instead, it stood knee-high and pale, leaves curling at the edges. The inspector was younger than Marcus expected, maybe 35, wore a Department of Natural Resources polo shirt and carried a tablet of his own. He'd introduced himself as Ryan Webb, water conservation specialist. He'd been doing these audits for 6 weeks straight. Every farm in the Republican River Basin, Marcus had watched 3 neighbors get audited already. 2 passed, 1 didn't. The one that didn't was already talking to lawyers. "System operational?" the inspector asked, not looking up. Marcus tapped the tablet mounted to the fence post. The screen showed a spinning wheel. "Loading," he said. Webb pulled out a pocket knife and dug into the soil about 6 inches down. The dirt came up dry and powdery. He moved 20 feet to the left and did it again. Same result. The inspector stood, brushed his hands on his pants and checked his watch. "Mr. Holt, this is a mandatory water usage audit. Under the 2023 Drought Emergency Act, farms in the Republican River Basin must demonstrate efficient irrigation practices or face allocation reduction. I need to see your usage logs for the past 90 days. Marcus tapped the screen again, still loading. "The system tracks everything," Marcus said. "Soil moisture sensors every 100 feet, satellite-linked pump controls, AI-optimized water distribution. It's all in the cloud." The inspector pulled out a clipboard. "Can you access it?" Marcus pressed the home button. The app crashed. He reopened it. Logan's screen appeared, then vanished. Error message. Server connection failed. "Give me a second." The inspector wrote something down. "I have 4 more farms to visit today, Mr. Holt. The state deadline is 48 hours from now. If you can't provide verified usage data, you'll be flagged for preliminary allocation reduction." "How much reduction?" 40% for 5 years, pending review. Marcus did the math in his head. 420 acres. Current water rights supported about 300 acres of irrigated corn at reasonable yield. Lose 40%, and he'd be down to watering 180 acres. The rest would be dry land gambling. At current land values, $4,000 per acre with irrigation, maybe $2,200 without. That was a $750,000 difference in equity. The bank held the note on 200 acres of that. "I'll have the data," Marcus said. The inspector nodded. 48 hours. Email the logs to the state portal. If the system's down, you'll need manual records. Handwritten is acceptable if you can verify the readings. He walked back to his truck. Marcus stared at the tablet, and that's when the server went down. 3 months earlier, the John Deere dealer's showroom had smelled like new plastic and coffee. Marcus sat across from Dale Hendricks, the precision ag specialist, watching a presentation on a mounted screen. "Smart irrigation system," Dale said, clicking through slides. "Soil moisture sensors installed at 100-foot intervals. Each sensor talks to the satellite every 6 hours. Pump controls receive real-time commands based on AI analysis of soil data, weather forecasts, and crop type. You're not guessing anymore. You're optimizing." The screen showed a map of a farm with green and red zones. Green meant adequate moisture. Red meant the AI had detected stress and triggered irrigation. "The system learns your field," Dale continued. "Knows where the clay holds water, where the sandy spots drain fast. Adjusts zone by zone. We're seeing 15 to 20% efficiency gains. Some customers report 25% in the first season." Dale clicked to a graph showing water usage over time. "See this? This is conventional irrigation. Flat rate, same schedule, regardless of actual need. You're watering when the crop doesn't need it, and sometimes missing windows when it does." He clicked again. "This is smart irrigation, variable rate, demand-based. You're only running water when and where the sensors say you need it." Marcus had done the math before he came. 420 acres, center pivot and drip lines. About 18 inches of water per season at current rates. 20% savings was meaningful, not just for the aquifer, for the allocation. The state had been tightening rules every year, meters on every well, usage caps tied to historical averages. Farms that could prove efficiency got protection. Farms that couldn't face cuts. And there was another angle. The state offered incentive grants for farms that adopted water conservation technology. 5% rebate on approved systems, capped at $10,000. It wasn't much against a $240,000 installation, but it helped. "What's the cost?" Marcus asked. Dale slid a sheet across the table. Full installation, sensors, pump interface, 5-year software subscription, $240,000. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd expected that range. Financing? 7 years, 4.2%. Payment runs about $3,400 a month. $3,400 a month. Marcus did the math. That was $40,000 a year. His corn ground, in a good year, netted about $200 per acre. That was $84,000 gross on 420. Subtract seed, fertilizer, fuel, insurance, land tax. He cleared maybe $45,000 to $50,000 in a decent year. The payment alone would eat most of that. But if water rights got cut, the land wouldn't produce anything. Marcus thought about his current system. Old diesel pump, manual valves. He walked the field every 3 days during irrigation season, checking moisture by hand, adjusting flow based on feel and experience. It worked, but it wasn't documented. And documentation was what the state wanted now. "When can you install?" Dale smiled. 2 weeks. They installed it in 10 days. Sensors went in clean. Pump got a new control module. Satellite uplink tested green. Marcus spent a week learning the app. Soil moisture graphed in real time. Pump schedule displayed in 6-hour blocks. Historical usage stored in the cloud, downloadable for state reporting. His father's old Farmall was still in the barn. 1952 model, wide front end, belt-driven PTO. Next to it sat the mechanical pump it used to run, a straight shaft system with a pressure gauge and a manual valve. No computer, no sensors, just steel and diesel and a farmer's judgment. Marcus's father had used that setup for 30 years before the center pivots came in. The Farmall still ran. Marcus started it every few months to keep the engine loose. His son, 18 and home from his first year at UNL, had asked him once why he kept it. "Backup?" the kid guessed. Marcus shook his head. "Reminder." "Of what?" "If it needs permission to run, it isn't yours." The drought got worse in July. Nebraska recorded the lowest rainfall since 2002. By mid-month, the state had received only 2 inches of rain when the average was closer to 8. The Republican River dropped to levels that triggered automatic well restrictions. The state sent letters to every farm in the basin. Water usage audits would be conducted in August. Allocations would be reviewed. Efficiency would be verified. Marcus wasn't worried. His system had logs for everything. Then the neighbors started talking. Tom Pritchard, 3 miles west, said his bank had called. They were reviewing collateral values on farms in drought zones. If water rights got cut, land values dropped. If land values dropped below 80% of loan balance, the bank could require additional collateral or demand early payment. Marcus called his own bank that night, First Western, out of Kearney. He'd been banking there for 15 years. "We're monitoring the situation," the loan officer said. Her name was Jennifer. She'd approved his land purchase 4 years ago. "Right now you're fine, but if you lose allocation, we'll need to reassess." "Reassess how?" "We'd order a new appraisal. If the land value drops below our collateral threshold, we'd need to discuss options." "What options?" "Additional collateral, principal reduction, or accelerated payment schedule." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "How much principal reduction?" "Enough to bring the loan-to-value ratio back to 70%. Marcus ran the numbers with his wife that night at the kitchen table. They'd bought the extra 200 acres 4 years ago, financed at 70% loan-to-value. Land was appraised at $4,000 per acre with full irrigation rights, $800,000 total value. They'd borrowed $560,000. Current equity, $240,000. If they lost 40% of their water rights, that land dropped to maybe $3,000 per acre. Total value, $600,000. Loan balance, still $560,000. Equity, $40,000. The bank would want a $100,000 payment to get back to 70% LTV. They didn't have $100,000. His wife set down her pen. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the numbers. What's the dealer say about the system? It's working. Logs are clean. State should accept them, no problem. Then we're fine. Marcus nodded, but the corn still looked pale. 48 hours before the final audit deadline, Marcus was in the shop changing oil on the truck when his phone buzzed. Email from the JD Operations Cloud. Scheduled maintenance 8:18 to 1 a.m., 8 or 19, 11 p.m. System access may be intermittent. Marcus checked the calendar. August 18th was today. The deadline was August 20th at 5 p.m. He opened the app. It loaded but slow. He clicked on usage logs. Spinning wheel. He waited. The app timed out. He tried again. This time it logged him in, but the data screen was blank. Syncing with server. Marcus called Dale. Yeah, got the email this morning, Dale said. Corporate maintenance window. Should be back up by tomorrow night. I need those logs by day after tomorrow at 5. You'll have them. Maintenance should wrap by 11 p.m. tomorrow. That gives you a full day. What if it doesn't? Then you download them the morning of the 20th. State portal accepts submissions until 5 p.m. You'll be fine. Marcus hung up and stared at his phone. The corn didn't care about the cloud. By noon on the 19th, the system was still down. Marcus tried the app every 30 minutes. Login failed. Server unreachable. Sync error. He called Dale again. Corporate says there's a back-end issue. They're working on it. When? They didn't give a timeline. I need those logs, Dale. I know. Look, worst case, you've got the sensors in the field. They store 72 hours of local data. If the cloud doesn't come back, we can pull readings manually and you can submit handwritten records. The inspector said handwritten is acceptable if I can verify the readings. Right. So worst case, we go field sensor to field sensor, pull the data, and you write it down. Pain in the ass, but it works. Marcus looked out the window at his cornfield. 420 acres. Sensors every 100 feet. That was a lot of sensors. What about the pump logs? Silence on the other end. Dale? Pump logs are cloud only. The controller doesn't have local storage. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. So if the cloud's down, I can't prove when the pump ran. Technically, no, but the soil data shows moisture. That proves you irrigated. The state wants both. Soil data and pump runtime. They cross-check for efficiency. Dale exhaled. Let me call corporate. I'll get back to you. He didn't call back. By 6 p.m., the app still wasn't working. Marcus walked out to the field and checked a sensor. It blinked green, operational, collecting data, just not sending it anywhere. He checked the pump controller. Screen was lit. Status. Waiting for authorization. Authorization from where? He pressed the manual override button. Marcus stared at the screen. The pump couldn't run without permission from a server 1,700 miles away. At dawn on the 20th, Marcus tried the app one more time. Still down. He had until 5 p.m. to submit verified logs. The state didn't care about technical problems. They cared about documentation. No documentation, no water. He sat in the kitchen drinking coffee, staring at his phone. His son came downstairs, poured himself a cup, and sat down. System still down? Marcus nodded. What are you going to do? Marcus set the phone down and stood up. I'm going to the barn. The Farmall sat where it always sat, facing the door, covered in a tarp that hadn't been pulled off in 2 years. Marcus yanked the tarp free and tossed it aside. Dust hung in the air, catching the morning light coming through the barn door. The tractor was red under the grime. Wide front end, belly-mounted PTO, steel seat with springs that had lost their tension in 1987. Behind it sat the pump, a mechanical beast with a straight shaft, a belt-driven flywheel, and a pressure gauge the size of a dinner plate. No computer, no sensors, no satellite link, just a valve and a shaft. Marcus checked the diesel tank, half full. He checked the oil, dark but not empty. He pulled the choke and positioned himself at the crank. The first pull met resistance. The engine was cold. 48 months since it had run for more than a test start. He cranked it once. Nothing. The flywheel turned but didn't catch. He cranked it twice. A cough. The engine tried to fire, then died. He pulled the choke out further and cranked it a third time. The engine caught. Black smoke belched from the exhaust. The whole tractor shook. Then the shaking smoothed into a low, steady growl. Marcus let it idle while he inspected the pump. The belt was cracked, but intact. The shaft needed grease. He found a grease gun on the workbench and worked grease into the fitting until it squeezed out clean. The valve turned stiff but functional. He worked it back and forth until it moved smooth. He dragged the pump out of the barn and hooked it to the Farmall's PTO. The belt slipped onto the flywheel. He engaged the PTO, and the pump groaned to life. The pressure gauge needle jumped, then settled at 0. He opened the valve. Water started to flow. The needle climbed to 40 psi, then 50. It didn't need a signal. It needed a shaft. By 8 a.m., Marcus had the Farmall running in the field, the pump pulling water from the well and pushing it through the drip lines. The pressure gauge held steady at 60 psi. Water flowed through the lines, soaking into soil that hadn't seen moisture in 3 weeks. But after 20 minutes, the belt started slipping. Marcus heard it first, a high-pitched squeal. Then he saw the gauge needle drop. 50 psi, 40, 30. He throttled down and disengaged the PTO. The belt had glazed over from heat and friction. He tightened the tension bolt, brought the Farmall back up to speed, and re-engaged the PTO. The belt caught for 5 minutes. Then it slipped again. Marcus shut everything down and inspected the setup. The belt was old. The pulley alignment wasn't perfect. The pump was drawing more load than the belt could handle at sustained high pressure. He tried adjusting the alignment, loosened the pump mount, shifted it a 1/4 inch, tightened it back down. Tried again. The pump ran for 10 minutes this time. Pressure held at 55. Then the belt started to slip and the pressure dropped. Water pooled unevenly across the field. The left zone, closest to the well, was saturated. The center zone was damp. The right zone, farthest from the pump, barely got wet. Marcus shut it down and sat on the Farmall's fender, staring at the gauge. He'd run out of time. The inspection was in 7 hours. The soil wasn't evenly moist. The logs were handwritten guesses based on a pump that couldn't hold pressure. The state wouldn't accept this. They'd flag him for inefficiency, cut his allocation, and the bank would call the loan. He sat down in the dirt next to the pump and put his head in his hands. 48 years old. Farming since he was 22. Never missed a payment, never lost a crop to bad decisions. And he was about to lose it all because a server went down in Seattle. His son's truck pulled up, gravel crunching under the tires. The kid got out, walked over, and looked at the pump. He didn't say anything for a minute, just squatted down and looked at the belt. "Belt's glazed," he said finally. Marcus nodded. The kid went to the toolbox in the truck bed and came back with a wrench and a can of belt dressing. He sprayed the belt, let it soak for 30 seconds, then adjusted the tension one more time. Then he tweaked the angle of the pump mount, shifting it back the other direction. "Try it now." Marcus stood up, climbed onto the Farmall, and started the engine. He brought it up to operating speed and engaged the PTO slowly. The pump caught. The belt held. Pressure climbed to 60 psi, then 65. Then it stayed there. Water flowed clean and steady across all 3 zones. The inspector arrived at 3 p.m. Marcus met him at the gate with a clipboard full of handwritten logs. Dates, times, zones, estimated flow rates based on pressure gauge readings. The inspector looked at the papers, then at the Farmall still idling in the field. "This is your irrigation system?" "Backup system," Marcus said. "Primary system went offline during maintenance. I switched to mechanical to keep the crop watered." "And these logs?" "Manual readings. Took them every 4 hours for the past 36 hours. Pressure gauge, valve position, runtime. I can show you the equipment." The inspector walked out to the field. He knelt down and pressed his hand into the soil in 3 different zones. Pulled a moisture probe from his belt and took readings. "Moisture's within threshold," he said. He stood and looked at the Farmall. "This thing actually works?" "Since 1952. The inspector wrote something down. He checked the corn, checked the soil again, made a few more notes. "I'll need to verify this against your well meter reading." They walked to the well house. The mechanical meter showed total gallons pumped in the past 90 days. Marcus's handwritten logs matched within 5%. The inspector nodded. All right, I'll submit this. You'll get a determination within 10 days. What about farms using the cloud systems? The inspector's expression didn't change. If they can't produce verified logs, they get flagged. For how long? Until the data's available. If it's not available by the deadline, temporary allocation reduction pending review. Marcus didn't ask anything else. The determination letter came 8 days later. Marcus Holt. Water rights status, approved. Full allocation maintained. He called Tom Pritchard to see how his neighbors had made out. Lost 30%, Tom said. His voice was flat. System logs wouldn't download. State said handwritten wasn't sufficient without sensor verification. They're reviewing it, but it'll take 6 months. Meanwhile, I'm cut. Tom farmed 320 acres. At 30% reduction, he'd lose nearly 100 acres of irrigation. His land value would drop by maybe $200,000. His bank had already called. Marcus hung up and sat at the kitchen table. His wife put a hand on his shoulder. We got lucky. Marcus shook his head. Luck was the Farmall. Dale called 2 days later. Hey, wanted to follow up. Heard you retained your allocation. That's great news. Yeah. Look, the system's back online now. Corporate issued a statement. Manufacturer had a data center failure. Rare event. They're implementing redundancy protocols. Good for them. We're offering a service credit for the downtime. 2 months free on your subscription. Marcus didn't say anything. You still there? I'm here. Dale cleared his throat. We stand by the product, Marcus. This was an isolated incident. Tom Pritchard lost 30% of his water. Yeah, I heard. That's unfortunate. But that's not on us. That's a state policy issue. Marcus set the phone down and looked out the window at the barn. A week later, his son was home for the weekend. They were cleaning the shop when the kid asked the question, "Why did that one work?" Marcus knew what he meant. Because it doesn't wait to be told it's allowed. The kid nodded. He grabbed a rag and wiped down a wrench. You keeping the smart system? Marcus thought about it. The monthly payment, the efficiency gains when it worked, the documentation when it was accessible. For now, he said, what if this happens again? Marcus looked at the Farmall, still parked by the barn. Clean now, tarp folded beside it. Then I know what works. That night, Marcus sat on the porch with a beer and watched the sun drop behind the corn. The field was green now. August rain had finally come. Too late to matter for yield, but enough to ease the drought pressure. The state had backed off the emergency audits. Next year, they'd be back. His wife came out and sat beside him. Tom's selling, she said. Marcus nodded. He'd heard. Bank called the loan. He can't make the payment without full irrigation. Where's he going? Doesn't know yet. His kid's looking at jobs in Omaha. They sat in silence for a while. You think we should sell? She asked. No. Why not? Marcus finished his beer and set the bottle down. Because I know what runs when the cloud doesn't. If the rain doesn't come and the state comes asking, which system would you trust with your water?